26, 2021 Oregon State Lottery Commission meeting is now in session. It's noted for the record that commissioners are attending this meeting via a web meeting, and a quorum of commissioners is present for today's meeting. Today's meeting is being live streamed on the internet, and a link is posted on the Oregon Lottery website. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Patel.
Here.
Commissioner Telfer.
Here.
Commissioner Wilcox.
Here.
Chair Saathoff.
Here. Thank you. Will the clerk also inform the commission of who else is in the meeting?
Yes. Director Pack, Nate Carter from DOJ, Janelle Simmons, Kathy Ortega, Kathy Stromberg, Ken Magnus, Chris Scarro, Mike Wells, Chris Higgins, and Ty Calandrello.
Thank you. Members of the public had the opportunity to provide written public comment to the commission for this meeting. A full copy of the written comments that were received were provided to the commissioners in advance of the meeting and will be posted on the commission meeting website. Will the clerk share the public comments that were received for the record?
No public comments were received for this commission meeting.
Thank you. I'm glad I didn't think I saw any, so I'm glad that you confirmed that. With that, let's move to Commissioner Communications. And I believe first up that we'll get a report from Marlene from the Audit Committee.
Thank you, Chair. During today's audit
Marlene,
committee meeting.
Yep.
Hello? Yes, sorry.
That's all right.
During today,
Can everybody hear you?
Barely.
Can you hear me?
Just, I can hear
It's
you. It's
pretty-
just very soft.
Let me see. Is this better?
Much better.
Okay, sorry. So during today's audit committee meeting, Kathy Ortega, the CFO, provided an update on the lottery's enterprise risk management activities and risk register development. Over the past few months, the lottery revised its approach to its ERM program and risk register development. The new approach involved obtaining input from select lottery management and staff agency-wide on risks that they deemed to be the greatest that could prevent the lottery from meeting its strategic goals and objectives. The participants were selected by the respective executive team member based on institutional knowledge and expertise. And Kathy will be presenting a revised risk register to the audit committee during its next meeting scheduled in June 2021. The audit committee was also briefed on the lottery's data breach incident response plan. The briefing was in response to questions posed during the prior audit committee meeting regarding the lottery's planned actions in the event of a data breach. The committee also reviewed and approved proposed revisions to the internal audit and audit committee charters. The revisions to these documents were made to ensure alignment with auditing standards pertaining to the composition and appointment of audit committee members. The committee also received a report on a recent request by the lottery's rules and policy analyst to the internal audit department to evaluate whether the lottery's current practice of allowing the lottery director to adopt internal operating policies without lottery commission approval agrees with Oregon revised statutes and Oregon administrative rules. The specific details of this review and the results were provided in the lottery commission materials, and in brief, the internal audit department found that the current practice of allowing the lottery director to adopt internal operating policies without lottery commission approval appears consistent with the legal framework of the lottery. However, the audit team found that certain OAR rules lacked the clarity necessary to guide and direct both the lottery commission and lottery management with the adoption of their internal operating policies. Subsequently, the audit team recommends that the past agreement between the lottery director and commission be formalized from the verbal authority that was given prior, be amended to provide clarification regarding the director's ability to adopt internal operating policies. These recommendations will require a formal rulemaking process and will be brought forward to the lottery commission during its next scheduled meeting for review.
Thank you, Marlene. Is that the end of your report?
Yes.
Thanks. And I'm going to assume, based on the recommendation from the audit committee, to clarify the OAR related policy adoption. That Chris, you're going to move ahead with that process, and so at the next meeting we'll get or at least our first step of recommend from you, so we can all discuss that more thoroughly.
Yes, thank you, Chair Satsoff. This is Chris Scarrow for the record. And yes, I've been briefed on the audit findings, and I'll bring that to you next month.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
With that, shall we move to the director report?
Thank
Director
you,
Pack.
Chetha. We'll start with sort of the biggest news from a sales perspective this week was our video lottery sales for last week. It was a record-shattering sales week with $26.5 million in revenue. Every week in March has actually been a record breaker, with the top 3 video lottery sales weeks in the state lottery's history all coming from March of 2021. And I think alongside pent-up demand and increasing availability as more restaurants open and counties move through their risk levels, these sales also probably directly tied to the timing of stimulus checks from the federal government. And as I said to staff in an all-hands meeting the other day, while we're all glad to see these revenues come in, both for our balance sheet and for the programs the lottery supports, I'm equally concerned about the potential impact of problem gambling being reflected in these sales numbers. So it is, of course, something we always keep in mind in our dual mission. But video lottery was not the only game in town last week. Scratch-Its continue their robust performance with $4.5 million in sales last week and are up 51% for the current fiscal year. While the strength of Scratch-Its is slowly eroding since the relaunch of large-scale video lottery in late January, the product remains steadfast and overperforming historical levels. Keno also enjoyed a great week with over 2.3 million in sales, and I'm happy to say that our 19th raffle game sold out on Friday, the 12th of March, and there will be more about the $1 million top prize winner in a little bit. So as I said, we are always concerned about problem gambling and the sale of our products, and March is designated as Problem Gambling Awareness Month. The National Council on Problem Gambling introduced Problem Gambling Awareness Month as a grassroots campaign effort, which is now in its 19th year. The theme, Awareness Plus Action, continues to be an effective message and supports the campaign goals to increase public awareness of problem gambling and the availability of prevention, treatment, and recovery services. In Oregon, we promote the availability of free problem gambling resources all year long, but in March, our efforts increase. We partner with the Oregon Health Authority on a joint governor's proclamation and press release and ramp up efforts digitally with a focused social media campaign. There are special Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter messages posted weekly around prevention and treatment. Staff also participate on webinars, radio shows, and podcasts talking about local Problem Gambling Awareness Month efforts. Local providers also offer free online events throughout the month. This yearly campaign relies heavily on the participation of the National Council's state affiliates, as in here in Oregon, recovery groups, and a wide range of state healthcare organizations and providers also contribute to making this successful every year. You'll hear more about our problem gambling awareness activities and outcomes, along with an update on revisions being made to the Responsible Gaming Code of Practice at our next meeting in April. Finally, in just general news, the Governor's State Employees Food Drive wrapped up at the end of February. One of the fun lottery events during the food drive was a virtual lunch with music provided by Marlene Meissner, a retired long-term state lottery employee and Mount Angel Oktoberfest accordion playing virtuoso, and Lily Johnson, OSL employee Pat Johnson's daughter. A representative from the Marion Polk Food Share also took part, sharing how they utilize donations as well as the other statewide food banks. Lottery employees generously helped us raise $9,729, which is the equivalent of 29,187 meals. Special thank you to Elisa Zavala for chairing the Lottery's Food Drive Committee this year. And now on to winners. We've had several big winners claim prizes this week. A $50,000 Powerball prize on Monday. Jocelyn Haskell, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, of Portland, was in to claim her $50,000 Powerball prize. She bought her winning ticket at the Fred Meyer in Hillsboro. And then on Tuesday, Tim Kelly from Glendale, Oregon, claimed a $100,000 Scratch It top prize playing the Dragon Fortune Scratch It. Tim bought his winning ticket at the Glenway store in Glendale. And finally, the big winner of the week was the raffle $1 million top prize winner, Joshua Park, who is from Vancouver, Washington. Joshua, who also won a $150,000 Scratch It prize in December of 2020, used the lottery's app to check the 20 raffle tickets he bought. He was hoping to win one of the $100 or $500 prizes. So when the app told him he'd won the $1 million top prize, he was understandably happy. Joshua bought his winning ticket at the Holgate Market and Deli on 112th Avenue in Portland. And that concludes my report for the month, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Director Pack. That was a great report. I'm so we're all anxious to see the revenues come back for the state. So really appreciative of that and all that your team's doing there. With that, let's move to the minutes of the previous commission meeting. The minutes of the previous commission meeting have been circulated to the commission. If there are no changes in the minutes, is there a motion to approve?
I move that the minutes of the Oregon State Lottery Commission meeting held on February 26, 2021 be approved as final as presented today.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
And will the clerk call the roll?
Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Telford,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilcox,
Aye.
Chair Safoff.
Aye. For the record, the motion has passed. Thank you. How about the lottery security biennial security assessment? I'm assuming we have Mike and Ken on to present that to us.
Yes, you are correct. Good morning, Chair Safoff, Director Pack, members of the commission. For the record, my name is Mike Wells, and I am the Assistant Director of Security at the Oregon Lottery. Joining me today on this call is Ken Magnus, Lottery's Cybercrime Manager, who helped facilitate this year's evaluation. So as you know, the Oregon statute requires Lottery biennially engage an independent firm to conduct a comprehensive security risk assessment of all of Lottery operations. The previous two assessments have been conducted by CNET International Corporation. To gain a new perspective, the 2020 review was conducted by Bulletproof Solutions. For nearly 20 years, Bulletproof has helped their clients navigate an increasingly complicated security landscape. They perform more than 200 similarly scoped assessments for gaming and lottery clients, including the Multi-State Lottery Association, North Carolina, Florida, Missouri, Virginia, and Wisconsin lotteries. So the scope of our assessment this year was very broad, evaluating security risks across all Oregon lottery operations. Their work was best summarized into 5 separate categories. So core lottery operations, video lottery operations, information technology security controls, threat assessment and scenario-based testing, and Azure security posture. And for those who may not know, Azure is Microsoft's cloud computing platform. So I'm pleased to report that following their assessment, Bulletproof concluded, and I'll quote, "The general security at the Oregon Lottery is well-defined and effective. Overall, the security posture of the lottery is positive, with relatively few areas of risk, with effective controls protecting the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the data. In both lotteries' specific focus areas and IT security controls, the lottery is above average compared to other lotteries we have recently tested and industry peers in the gaming sector," end quote. So Bulletproof did note 8 findings, all of which they classified as low risk. None of the findings have any known impact on the accuracy, fairness, or integrity of past, current, or any of our upcoming games. We've already started to address most of these findings, and it's our intention to have mitigation in place within the next 6 months. We'll be tracking the progress through our standard audit tracking process, and we'll report the progress through the audit committee as we proceed. So you should have copies of the full report, which includes significantly more detail than this. And with that, that concludes our report, but certainly if you have any general questions, we can try to answer those.
Mike, thank you so much. I got a lot of comfort. The other thing I just wanted to clarify, and then I'll open it up for questions or comments from the commission. I thought I also read, and just to confirm that that Bulletproof has seen no degradation, no deterioration in any of our controls from the last report. So we may be doing better, but we certainly are not doing anything less than what we've done in the past. So I also found that comforting. Is that correct?
Yes, you are correct. So this assessment is very similar to previous assessments, approximately the same number of findings, and also at the same level. So you are correct. Great. That
Great.
No degradation of security in any of our areas.
Excellent. Questions or comments from any of the other commissioners? Hearing none, thank you very much, and thank you for overseeing this work. It's, as I said, it gives me a lot of comfort. With that, let's move to the financial report, and Kathy Ortega and Director Pack.
Yes, good morning, Chair Sathoff, Commissioners, and Director Pack. For the record, my name is Kathy Ortega, Chief Financial Officer for the Oregon Lottery, and I am here to go over the February financial report for 2021. Looking at the first page, which is the results for the month of February, our revenues came back nicely, and we were $2.5 million ahead of budget on a 79.5% actual, or not percent, but dollars in actual revenue. We had a couple of negative spending variances. Oh, hang on just a second. Which, terribly sorry about that. They snuck in. Are just timing differences, and we had a $2.8 million net profit favorable variance with $47.3 million for the month. On a year-to-date basis, we had $10.9 million, almost $11 million favorable revenue variance with $558.4 million of profit. And as you can see, the two categories that were negative on a monthly basis, we have positive variances in those accounts. And finally, we had an $8.5 million positive variance on our net profit with $322.5 million. Looking at the next schedule, which is services and supplies, a couple of small monthly variances, which are timing differences, and the large variance in the network recovery we've talked about in the past, which was lottery absorbed 2 months worth of line charges for the retailers while they were shut down. I also have the balance sheet here for your consideration today, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions or comments from the commission? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the monthly financial statements?
I move that the Oregon State Lottery financial statements for month ended February 28th, 2021 be approved for the record as presented today.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Will the clerk call the roll?
Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Telford,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilcox,
Aye.
Chair Sathoff.
Aye. For the record, the motion has passed. Kathy, do you want to have other on the any other of your financial statements you want to talk about, or move to scoreboard?
That represents my report for the month. Thank you very much for the approval.
Okay.
And I think Barry's going to address scoreboard. Are you not, Barry?
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, members of the commission. You have a memo, very brief memo from me in your materials regarding scoreboard proceeds and transfers to the state. As I mentioned in the previous meeting, scoreboard has turned a profit and we have recovered all of our initial startup costs and are generating net lottery proceeds from the games, which is great news given all of the challenges of the pandemic in this time period. We have been in discussions with both Legislative Fiscal Office and the DAS Chief Financial Office around the desire to create a prize volatility reserve since this product is still so new in the market and sports betting is a very volatile market since the outcomes are determined by the outcomes of sporting events as opposed to a planned known prize payout percentage. So my recommendation to the commission is that we set aside $1 million in reserves as an initial reserve amount, that we monitor prize payout volatility over the months ahead and then evaluate whether that is a sufficient reserve, needs to be increased or decreased based on risk and experience. And then the remaining net lottery proceeds would transfer in April with the other lottery transfers in a normal schedule. Then beginning next fiscal year, scoreboard transfers, again, to hedge against volatility a little bit, we will transfer those every 6 months. So that is my recommendation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions or comments from the commission? Well, Barry, one of the things that that I'm sure we're all feeling good about is that as this product line starts to show a return, it feels like what you're doing is you're trying to kind of set up some parameters around it so that we can monitor it to have a better ability to forecast going forward. And part of that is adjusting to this volatility until we get sort of an understanding of what it looks like. Is that correct?
That's right. We understand what sports betting looks like, generally speaking, but it is still, the Oregon market is, still developing and growing, and so we just need to make sure that we're keeping an eye on the risk that we are willing to take on, and just protect against it a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's really smart to try to separate this out and watch this separate from our other product lines. But with that, is there a motion to create a scoreboard reserve?
I move that the Oregon Lottery set aside a $1 million reserve to protect against prize volatility in scoreboard wagers.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Will the clerk call the roll?
Commissioner Patel?
Aye.
Commissioner Telford?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilcox?
Aye.
Chair Sathoff?
Aye. For the record, the motion is passed. Thank you, Barry and Kathy. And with that, I think we'll move to the legislative update. Chris, I know you sent materials out, so are you going to pull them up on the screen for us?
Yes, thank you, Chair Sathoff. There's Director Pack. For the record, Chris Scarrow, Rules and Policy Analyst. I'm going to try to share my screen. Let's see. Can you see that?
I can.
Okay, great. Yeah, something a little different this morning. We're about halfway through the 2021 legislative session, so I want to give you a quick update on the bills we're watching that would affect us at the lottery. So as you can see from this overview, we've been in session about 2.5 months, and it's a unique session, of course, in that it's remote, except they do meet in person to move bills across the floor. They have a lot of big issues on their agenda, of course, but for our part, we try to be prepared to be responsive to requests for information. So Director Pack did give a Lottery 101 presentation to a new committee in the House General Government Committee, which is tasked with handling lottery-related bills in the House. We also respond to requests to reveal bills, and we also track bills that would affect our operations here at the lottery, which includes one bill that's very specific to us, and then many more bills that affect us generally as a state agency, and then some bills that are just interesting, which are mostly related to how lottery funds are used. So I'm going to do a quick status update on bills we are watching, with the caveat that all of this can change very quickly. So the content of bills can change, and also the momentum of a bill can change. So this is where we're at this morning. So as I said, there's one bill that is specific to the lottery. That's House Bill 3078, which would limit us from offering games playable on a mobile phone or similar personal electronic device. It does have exceptions for sports betting games as defined in the bill, and ticket sales for the multi-state draw games. So this bill did have a hearing, and we've got a work session scheduled next week, so we will have to report back to you, but we are watching that one very closely.
Chris, will you remind me who's not just the sponsor, but who's driving this bill?
So Representative Bossart Davis is the chief sponsor, and it has a couple co-sponsors. Our friends in the responsible gaming community testified in support
Okay,
as well.
thanks.
So here's a list of bills relating to lottery revenue. Most of these wait patiently in Ways and Means until closer to the end of session, so not much movement there. Here's a group of bills that would affect us from a HR perspective at the lottery. They are looking to establish a new state holiday that we would recognize here to commemorate emancipation starting next June. A new preference for public employment. So this one would be for Eastern Oregon residents if our job includes work that would be performed in Eastern Oregon, which may pull in some positions here at the lottery. Some changes to veterans preference for public jobs that we would need to comply with, some minor changes to family leave law, and then a requirement that all management level staff have introductory emergency management training, obviously in light of the various emergencies we've had to manage recently. So here's some good government or government transparency type bills that do affect the commission and the lottery. So a limit on fees we can charge for public records. They are taking a look at the public records or the public meetings law and updating that to require us to ensure people can participate in our meetings without having to drive, and that would apply even after the public health emergency. Also considering incentives to service on boards and commissions by increasing the compensation and reimbursement for participation. And always a lot of changes to rulemaking that I'm watching closely, of course. And then lastly, just some miscellaneous bills we're watching. They've had several hearings about how to be more effective in our response to homeless people on public property. An interesting bill about media access to public property, and then various changes to public contracting, which we are generally exempt from, but we do track those to comply when we can. So that's kind of a quick run through of bills we're tracking. We'll continue to track bills and be responsive to requests for information. They are looking to adjourn mid-June. We'll see how that goes. And after that, we'll take a look at our policies and make sure we're prepared to comply with laws that affect us here at the lottery. So thanks for your time this morning. That concludes the legislative update. Happy to talk about any of the bills if you have questions.
Thanks, Chris. Any questions or comments for the commission on the legislative report? Hearing none, Chris, maybe we want to move to our rulemaking.
Yeah, thank you. Madam Chair, again, Commissioners, Director Pack, for the record, Chris Scarro, Rules and Policy Analyst. So as we discussed last month, our DOJ Council had advised that we could update our adoption of the DOJ Model Rules of Procedure to ensure we've adopted the most current version. This allows us to also repeal an old rule we have about the confidentiality of mediation communications, which has since been addressed under the model rules. This rulemaking brings us in line with most other agencies in Oregon, and for the record, does not represent a major shift in how we handle mediation communications. We've completed the rulemaking process, which is documented in your meeting materials. We filed notice on February 26th, allowed 3 weeks for folks to comment in writing, and held a virtual rulemaking hearing, but we didn't receive any comments on this rulemaking. Director Pack has reviewed the rules and does recommend the Commission adopt them as they're reflected in your meeting materials today. Again, happy to answer questions. Otherwise, you should have a motion in your materials.
Thanks, Chris. I know we talked about this at the last meeting, but just before we go to take a vote here, any questions or comments of Chris on this rulemaking? Hearing none. Is there a motion to amend and repeal the proposed rulemaking?
I move that OAR 177-010-0009 be amended and OAR 177-010-0011 be repealed as presented in the meeting materials today to be effective April 20th, 2021.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Will the clerk call the roll?
Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Telford,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilcox,
Aye.
Chair Sassoff.
Aye. For the record, the motion has passed. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
That takes us to other business. I'll open the floor if there's any other business that anyone would like to raise at this time. Okay, well, hearing none. This concludes today's meeting of the Oregon State Lottery Commission. The next meeting is scheduled on April 23rd. Thank you for attending today's meeting, and the meeting is adjourned. Nice to see and hear everybody. Talk
Thank
to you all
Have a great
soon.
weekend.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.